The conference room felt different this time. Not because anything had physically changed. Same mahogany table, same leather chairs, same view of the city skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. But yesterday, when I called my parents into this room, everything was different. Because 10 years ago, they had crushed my dreams to fund my brother's fairy tale wedding. And now I was their boss. My name is Jordan Mitchell, and this is the story of how a betrayal at 18 became justice at 28. It started on graduation day. I was valedictorian of my high school class, had been accepted to MIT with a partial scholarship, and was 2 weeks away from starting the next chapter of my life. My parents, Linda and Robert Mitchell, had been saving for my college education since I was born. $80,000 in a dedicated education fund that they'd shown me statements for every year on my birthday. "This is your future, sweetheart," my mother would say, pointing to the growing balance. "Every dollar in here is for your education." I had worked for that future too. While other kids were at parties, I was studying. While they were playing video games, I was in academic competitions. I graduated with a 4.8 GPA, scored 1580 on my SATs, and earned recognition as a National Merit Scholar. MIT wasn't just a dream, it was a certainty backed by years of preparation and that $80,000 safety net. 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave for college, everything changed. My older brother Trevor, 26 at the time, had been dating his girlfriend Vanessa for 3 years. She came from money. Old money, the kind that came with expectations and social pressures. When Trevor proposed, Vanessa's family made it clear that anything less than a spectacular wedding would be an embarrassment to their family name. Trevor had been working as a sales associate at a car dealership, living paycheck to paycheck, despite being 8 years older than me. Vanessa worked part-time at her father's law firm, more for appearances than out of necessity. Neither of them had any real savings. But Vanessa had dreams, big dreams. She wanted a destination wedding in Napa Valley, a designer dress that cost more than some people's cars, and a reception for 200 guests at a vineyard that charged $300 per plate. The total cost, $85,000. I came home from my graduation party to find my parents sitting at the kitchen table with spreadsheets, wedding magazines, and calculator. Trevor and Vanessa were there too, Vanessa crying delicately into a tissue while Trevor looked stressed and defeated. "Jordan, honey, sit down," my mother said. "We need to talk." I sat down, still wearing my graduation cap, still high from the excitement of finishing high school as valedictorian. I thought maybe they wanted to discuss my move-in plans for MIT or go over my course schedule one more time. "Trevor and Vanessa are in a difficult situation," my father began. "The wedding costs are significantly higher than they anticipated, and Vanessa's family has made it clear that they expect a certain level of presentation. We can't afford it," Trevor said, not looking at me. "Not without help." That's when I noticed the bank statements on the table, my college fund statements. "We've been thinking," my mother continued, "and we've decided to loan Trevor the money from your education fund for the wedding." The words didn't compute at first. Loan, my education fund, wedding. "What do you mean loan?" I asked. "Trevor will pay it back," my father said quickly, "with interest. It's just that he needs it now, and you could take a gap year. Maybe work for a year, save some money, reapply next year." "Reapply?" My voice cracked. "Dad, I'm supposed to start at MIT in 2 weeks. I've already deferred my other acceptances. My scholarship is for this year." "Scholarships can be renewed," Vanessa said, speaking for the first time. "MIT will understand. It's not like you're the only student who ever took a gap year." I stared at her. This woman who I barely knew was casually dismissing my future like it was nothing. "Besides," she continued, "Trevor really needs this. We need to start our marriage on the right foot. First impressions matter in his industry, and if we have a cheap wedding, it could hurt his career prospects." "Vanessa's right," my mother said. "Trevor needs a perfect start to his married life. This wedding could open doors for him professionally. You're smart, Jordan. You'll figure something out. You'll figure something out." As if 4 years of college was something I could just improvise. "What about my scholarship?" I asked desperately. "It's worth $30,000 a year, but only if I start this fall. If I defer, I lose it completely." "You'll get other scholarships," Trevor said. "You're smart. You'll probably get even better ones if you wait a year and improve your application." The casual way he dismissed 4 years of my academic achievements, my acceptance to one of the world's best universities, and a scholarship I'd earned through pure merit was breathtaking. "This is my future," I said, my voice shaking. "This is everything I've worked for." "And this is Trevor's future too," my mother replied. "He's starting a family. That's more important than any college." "You're being selfish," my father added. "Family helps family. When you're successful someday, you'll help us. That's how it works." I looked around the table at these people who were supposed to love me, supposed to support my dreams, supposed to put my future first. Instead, they were asking me to sacrifice everything I'd worked for so my brother could throw a party. "I won't do it," I said quietly. "It's not your choice," my father said, his voice hardening. "It's our money, and we've made our decision. Trevor needs this more than you need college right now." "What if he doesn't pay it back?" I asked. "He will," my mother said firmly. "Of course he will." But Trevor wouldn't look at me. Neither would Vanessa. They were already mentally spending my college fund on flowers and champagne and photographer fees. I tried everything. I begged. I pleaded. I offered to take up student loans for the remaining $50,000 I'd need after losing my scholarship. I promised to pay them back the $80,000 with interest after I graduated and got a job. None of it mattered. Their minds were made up. The wedding was spectacular. I worked as a server at the reception, watching my college fund get transformed into ice sculptures and premium open bar service. Vanessa looked like a princess in her $8,000 dress. Trevor looked proud and happy in his designer tuxedo. My parents beamed with pride, telling everyone how beautiful the wedding was, how proud they were of their son. No one mentioned that their daughter was supposed to be starting at MIT instead of serving cocktails to wedding guests. After the wedding, reality set in quickly. MIT wouldn't hold my spot. My scholarship was gone. Other universities have filled their incoming classes. I was stuck. I spent that year working 3 jobs: the catering company during weekends, a retail job during the week, and tutoring high school students in the evenings. I saved every penny I could, but without the scholarship and with college costs rising, I was looking at $200,000 in student loans if I wanted to attend a comparable university. Trevor and Vanessa went on their honeymoon to Europe. 2 weeks in Italy and France, posting pictures on social media of themselves drinking wine in Tuscany and shopping in Paris. When they got back, I asked Trevor about repaying the college fund. "We're still getting settled," he said. "Vanessa wants to buy a house, and we need to establish ourselves financially. Give us a few years." A few years turned into no payments at all. Trevor got a better job at a different dealership, and they did buy a house. A big house with a mortgage that consumed most of Trevor's improved income. There was never money left over to repay what they owed me. But I had learned something important from losing my college fund. No one was going to hand me my future. I would have to build it myself. I enrolled in community college, taking business and computer science classes while continuing to work full-time. It wasn't MIT, but I was learning. After 2 years, I transferred to the state university with enough credits to graduate in 2 more years instead of 4. During college, I started a small business designing websites for local companies. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I reinvested every dollar I made back into the business, buying better equipment, learning new technologies, hiring other students to help with overflow work. By the time I graduated with my bachelor's degree in business and computer science, my little web design company was generating 6 figures in annual revenue. I had a team of 12 freelancers and contracts with 47 local businesses. But I wasn't satisfied. I had bigger plans. The company where my parents worked was called Henderson and Associates, a mid-sized marketing firm that had been struggling to adapt to digital marketing trends. They were good at traditional advertising but completely lost when it came to online marketing, social media strategy, and web-based customer acquisition. I had been watching Henderson and Associates for years, studying their client lists, analyzing their weaknesses, understanding their market position. I knew they were ripe for disruption. When I was 25, I launched my own marketing firm, Mitchell Digital Solutions. Instead of competing directly with Henderson and Associates, I positioned myself as the solution to their biggest problem, their digital incompetence. I started by coaching their clients who were frustrated with Henderson's inability to deliver modern marketing solutions. Then I hired away their best employees by offering better pay and equity stakes in my company. Within 18 months, Henderson and Associates was bleeding clients and talent. That's when James Henderson, the company founder, approached me about a merger. "We need what you have," he said during our first meeting. "Digital expertise, young talent, modern systems. You need what we have: established relationships, institutional knowledge, a 40-year reputation." The merger made sense for both companies, but I structured it carefully. Mitchell Digital Solutions would acquire Henderson and Associates, not the other way around. I would be CEO of the combined company. The Henderson name would remain for legacy clients, but the company culture, strategy, and leadership would be mine. James Henderson was ready to retire anyway. He was 71 years old and tired of trying to understand Instagram advertising and Google algorithms. He wanted to sell his company to someone who could preserve its legacy while adapting it for the modern world. The acquisition was completed 6 months later. I was 27 years old and the owner of a marketing firm with 85 employees and $15 million in annual revenue. 2 of those employees were my parents. My father worked in the accounting department, the same position he'd held for 12 years. My mother was in client services, managing relationships with long-term Henderson clients. They were both competent employees, well regarded by their colleagues, but not particularly ambitious or innovative. They had no idea their daughter now owned the company where they worked. I waited a full year before revealing the truth. I wanted to observe them as employees, understand their work performance, see how they treated their colleagues and handled their responsibilities. I also wanted to make sure the acquisition was fully integrated and the company was stable under my leadership. During that year, I learned things about my parents' work habits that I found interesting. My father had a tendency to leave early on Fridays. My mother took extended lunch breaks to run personal errands. Neither of them was particularly engaged with the company's digital transformation initiatives. They weren't bad employees, but they weren't great ones either. They were coasting, doing just enough to avoid getting fired while collecting their paychecks and complaining about management decisions they didn't understand. Yesterday, exactly 10 years after they spent my college fund on Trevor's wedding, I decided it was time for a conversation. I had my assistant schedule separate meetings with both of them. "The new owner wants to meet with all department heads and senior staff members," she told them. "Just routine getting to know you meetings." My father came in first, at 2:00 p.m. He knocked on the conference room door and walked in, stopping short when he saw me sitting at the head of the table in a business suit. "Jordan?" He looked confused. "What are you doing here?" "I thought I was meeting with the new owner." "You are," I said calmly. "Please sit down." He sat down slowly, his face showing the exact moment when he realized what was happening. You own this company?" "I do. As of 13 months ago, when Mitchell Digital Solutions acquired Henderson and Associates." The color drained from his face. "But how? When did you? Remember when you told me I figured something out?" I asked. This is what I figured out. For the next 30 minutes, I walked him through my journey. Community college while working 3 jobs. Building a business from nothing. Growing that business into a company large enough to acquire his employer. "Your work performance has been adequate," I told him. "Not excellent, but adequate. You've been taking early Fridays for the past year, which I've documented. Your productivity has declined since the acquisition, though I understand change can be difficult for employees who are set in their ways." "Jordan, I don't know what to say. I had no idea." "I'm not firing you," I said. "You're my father, and despite everything, I don't want to destroy your livelihood. But things are going to change. The early Fridays stop, your performance needs to improve. And we're going to have a conversation about that $80,000 you never paid back." My mother's meeting was at 3:30 p.m. Her reaction was similar: shock, confusion, then a dawning realization of exactly how dramatically the power dynamic had shifted. "You planned this," she said after I'd explained the situation. "You bought this company to get back at us." "No," I said. "I built a business because I needed a future since the one I planned was sold to pay for Trevor's party. Acquiring this company made business sense. The fact that you work here is just convenient." "What do you want from us?" she asked. "I want you to be better employees," I said simply. "And I want the money you stole from me, with interest." "We didn't steal anything. We borrowed it for Trevor." "Did Trevor pay it back?" She was quiet for a long moment. He's had some financial difficulties. So you gave away my college fund permanently. You destroyed my scholarship, forced me to find another path, and never intended to make it right. You turned out fine, she said defensively. Look at you now. You're successful. You didn't need college after all. Unsuccessful despite what you did to me, not because of it. Unsuccessful because I refused to let your betrayal define my future. I leaned back in my chair, looking at this woman who had raised me, who had taught me right from wrong, who had always told me that family comes first. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You and Dad are going to pay me back the $80,000 with 10 years of compound interest at 6% annually. That comes to approximately $143,000. You can pay it back through payroll deductions over the next 5 years. We can't afford that, she protested. Then you'll need to make different choices. Downsize your house. Get rid of the boat Dad bought last year. Cancel your country club membership. Figure it out. You're punishing us for helping our son. I'm collecting a debt that you've ignored for 10 years. This is business, not family. We're your parents. Parents who chose their adult son's party over their teenager's education. Parents who told their daughter to figure it out when they destroyed her future. Parents who never apologized, never tried to make it right, never even acknowledged what they took from me. She was crying now, but I felt no sympathy. I had cried too, 10 years ago, when I watched my dreams disappear into ice sculptures and premium bar service. Trevor's marriage didn't even last, I added. They divorced 3 years ago. Vanessa took half of everything in the settlement, including half the value of the house you helped them buy with my college fund. So your investment in his perfect start returned exactly nothing. That meeting ended with my mother signing a payroll deduction authorization form. My father had signed an identical form an hour earlier. Today, both of my parents are still my employees. They're also my debtors, paying back the money they stole from me one paycheck at a time. They do their jobs adequately, knowing that their daughter, the one they told to figure it out, is watching their performance and measuring their value to the company. Trevor works at another car dealership now, still living paycheck to paycheck, still making excuses for why he can't pay back money he owes. He sends me a Christmas card every year with a note about how proud he is of my success, and how he always knew I'd do great things. I throw the cards away without reading them. The company is thriving under my leadership. We've tripled our revenue, expanded to 4 cities, and I'm looking at acquisition opportunities in other markets. I've built the future I was supposed to have, just 10 years later and entirely on my own terms. Sometimes people ask me if I'm angry about what my parents did. The answer is no. Anger is what I felt at 18 when they betrayed me. What I feel now is satisfaction. They taught me that family doesn't mean what I thought it meant. They taught me that promises can be broken when convenient. They taught me that I couldn't depend on anyone but myself. Those were valuable lessons, even if they weren't intended as such. Now, every 2 weeks when their paychecks are automatically reduced by $1,430, they're reminded of those lessons too. And every time they sit in a meeting where I'm making decisions about their workplace, their benefits, their future, they're reminded of the 18-year-old girl they told to figure it out. I figured it out just fine, better than they ever imagined.